Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, Architect's Maze. Sorry it's been a minute since I've been on. I've been really busy with stuff in real life, so as I've said before, my designing's going to be on back burner for a little while. So this was really just a request from Wiserisky 6794, and he was looking at ideas for a tropical theme. He says he struggles in the tropical theme, and just what ideas do I have. So I basically knocked up 3 holes in that theme. Just did a 4, a 5 and a 3 par, just to give you, or him really, some ideas of what you can do in a tropical theme. You don't have to be sort of traditional. I mean, tropical theme to me could be anything really. Anywhere hot, beaches, lovely vegetation, just anything really. I mean, the style of course obviously is debatable to what you want to do, but why not just have a bit of fun with it and just try and see what you can come up with. We've gone for this sort of layout in the background. So we've got like looks like an island, doesn't it? We've got some other little islands in and around, so that gives it a nice little look to it and a bit more interested in the background. I was just using this as an idea of how I would do the beaches, which is obviously drawing a bigger sort of beach than you normally would and then cutting it back, but just sinking the rest slightly underwater so you get that nice light blue look to the water to give you that sort of beach, tropical sort of environment vibe. So that was for that. In terms of vegetation, I really like the tropical theme generated trees. Trying to plant loads of palms can be really difficult. It can look really awful. You really have to use a different variety, twist them and shape them, and it can take forever. And trying to do it naturally is really difficult. So I tend to, I mean, if I take the palms off that we've set, you'll see how many trees I've actually planted, which is really minimal. I planted a few trees here and there, the odd palms where I thought it needed it along certain positions, but as you can see the rest is pretty barren. So bringing those trees back in, well, let's just delete that and push square to that, and that will bring that back. So you can see how many palms there are naturally generated. So they're really good, the palms, I find. So you get lots of interesting shapes, interesting angles, and you've only got to highlight certain little things in here and there, filling in little gaps and places where you want something more prominent and deliberate. So that's that idea for the sort of textures and stuff. We've gone for quite, I mean, they're generally quite lush and green, aren't they, these environments? So I've gone for quite a light colour to the fairway, but I've gone for a nice bright bold green for the rough, and then a nice dark bit of vegetation for the heavy rough. The subsoils are really just a bedrock, which is a whitish brownish bedrock, because I went for this sort of multiple planted rocks, so I wanted something to blend in with the brown rocks that I've put in further up to mix in with those white ones. So we've put some brown ones in as well, so by having that subsoil a bit sort of white and brown, I can kind of get away with having those multiple style of rocks. I don't think it quite works there when you're looking back this way, but you can't really see it from the tee. And basically in that scenario I would probably just add some more white rocks in there all around this area just to take away that brown. But these are just ideas of what you can do. It's never going to be finished, this course. It's just going to get deleted after this video. I've gone for like like a resort kind of vibe. So you got all these little houses dotted in and around, um, along the cart path, just on the other side of the fence. You've got plenty of houses and beachfront properties. Little jetty out there leading towards a little area for people to chill out on the water. Stuff like that, really. You just want to get that vibe that you're somewhere holidayish, tropical, relaxing vibe. So again, we've just stuck all these properties in and around, kind of like the Dominican or somewhere like that, where you're going to get all these nice properties adjacent to the course. Some roads in, some cars and stuff to get that vibe. We come down to here, coming onto the last hole. We just stuck a little beach area in down here, coming off our tee. Our course stays to the water's edge, whereas the public would be running along this area with a little sort of beachfront area down there into the corner. And that's the vibe of that, really. Just putting in some little beach holes, using the beaches as the bunkers, things like that you can do. You don't have to stick to bunkers for that scenario. Nice little island green there. I think using an island that would just be sitting out there, incorporating that into a green. You can have a lot of fun with tropical designs because it's an interesting environment to do, but like I say, it's the vegetation that I think people find the hardest. So the biggest tip in it would be to use as much as the generated vegetation as you can. As regards of whatever we actually used in terms of vegetation, we go to our trees and go to our placed. We're using a few acacias here and there. There's not many of those. There is the odd birch tucked in certain little places just to give it that vibe, but that would be in more around houses. I can't think I've really used many of those whatsoever. The bush, the generic bush that I tend to use a lot, will be everywhere, like here and stuff. You can just sink that into little places where the rocks don't look quite right. I mean, I just spam these rocks and copied and pasted them, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. In the overall design, if you look at my objects, it's 57%, but we've used a hell of a lot of buildings and stuff, so it's not a design that we're trying to finish, it's just a design to give you some ideas for particular holes or something like that. So in terms of where you would be after 3 holes with 57%, you'd be panicking. But we're not trying to achieve 18 holes, so we can go a bit crazy and go over the top with it. We can make some interesting holes. I mean, like I say, it's not a traditional style course that you would expect for tropical, but we're on a beachfront location, so we can afford to have a little bit of license if we want to keep it a really flat, low down beach. Which on the lower holes where the beach is, we've done. On the rockier holes, we've raised it up a little bit, like cliffs and stuff. But then we're back down to sort of a beach area where we're low again, so you can have that license in your design. If you're going to run beaches, just keep them nice and low. If you're going to do some higher holes, just get some nice cliffs in and things like that, and that makes it look more natural in that respect, that you would get that scenario going on. The houses, obviously, I mean, I haven't got into loads of detail with them, but just filling in along the edges of the houses. We've got some nice bamboo that's worked really well, this new bamboo. You can get that nice lush sort of tropical vibe going on and around your house. A few colourful bushes here and there. They're actually trees, those ones, which is a bush in the tree section. These little bushes here tend to work quite well, those ones, just giving you that vibe. You've got some low down bamboo ones, just your palms. These sycamores work quite well in the background because they give you that, it's the branches, isn't it, all the All the branches in there remind me of really a tropical style. You can see that dotted about the course. And for a filler, I don't normally use, I wouldn't use something like broadleaf like I would in any other environment. You can use a tropical tree sunk. They tend to fill in quite nicely in all these little areas like that. You can stick them in. They don't cover as much ground as some of the other fillers that I would use, but they give you that vibe, and they're a nice you can get a couple of different colours, so you can start working in some different textures and stuff into them, so that works well. I have used, sorry, I'll come out of that again, this bush has been quite prominent in and around the course. We've used that quite a lot. And then you've just got all these little interesting bushes, nothing too green, quite, well, this one's pretty green. You got to have a nice mixture of dark greens and dark browns, I think, really, in your trees. So the odd palms, like I say, I've just used those to fill in certain areas. Let's get back a bit. That I wanted to put a palm. That's that. Stones, obviously, we've used. We haven't used that one. That was just ones I was looking at. We haven't used that one. We've just used a multiple of these, just twisting them. These ones, and these ones. Just twisted and then copied and pasted. But as I said, I wouldn't really recommend that as an overall design. You can do that on 1 or 2 holes, or in a certain area where you want to do a nice prominent beach sort of front with rock work. I think that would work nicely. You need a little splashes of colour here and there, so we've just added in some lighter grasses there, which would be in this section of what we've placed, only those 3 grasses. Just a little bit of orange here and there you can run in along the edges and just give it little splashes of colour here and there. Just to break up the fact that it's just completely green everywhere. But we've gone for lots of mainly green grasses, to be honest. Just the orange can just sometimes break things up a little bit, just so you're not so bold and you're green all the time. Let's come out of there. But you can achieve that really with just weathering. This is a little weathered patch. So anywhere that looks really bold and green, you can just drop in a little bit of weathering. We've stuck it in here and there and along the edges of the beach sort of side where the weather's going to hit, and high up on sort of prominent high points where they're likely to get a bit weathered from the actual coastline. I mean, that bit probably wouldn't, because this area here would protect it, but we've stuck a bit in there. Let's drop it out and see what it looks like. It's that one that's more intense. That looks a bit better. That is that out of the way. Right. So in this scenario, I've just drawn the bunkers again and sculpted them myself with a little bit of grass topsoil around the top of the bunker, just to give it that sort of washed in look. Little bit of bedrock here and there. You can stick a tree on top of there just to finish that section off. Something in there. So that gives it that sort of washed out look on the bunkers. I've gone for quite a rugged course. I mean, a lot of the time they're tropical courses in people's minds, and in a lot of the courses you see will be very precise and really well manicured and beautiful manicured bunkers. And I've gone for a different sort of approach on it, because like I said, just because you're in a tropical theme doesn't mean you have to stick to that tropical template of what most people would think to do. You could just be a little bit creative with it. So let's get that out of the way. So like I said, we've brushed in all the bunkers. You've got these little mulch patches here and there where we've got big areas of grass and vegetation, you can just blend in a bit of the mulch, which I've set to like a dark brown. That breaks everything up. So within that section we've obviously got green, fairway, the light rough, we've selected the heavy rough, the grass topsoil and a bit of mulch and a little bit of bedrock mingled in. So using all those subsoils and textures, you can really break it up a lot. You know, you don't have to be really well manicured in that respect. If you do want to be more manicured, you just run more heavy rough round. But I've gone for something not different, but just a different take on it. So off the tee, we've gone for sort of these funky shaped tee boxes for this one, just to break it up a little bit again. And I don't need to save, do it. Sometimes it crashes after a bit of work. Only when you go to play the course you tend to get a crash at times. So I've got into the habit of doing that before I press play. Keep Tiger on. His first holes, I mean, the strategy isn't really something that I've worked on. I've just drawn out some basic holes, but it's the ideas off the sort of tee that we're trying to achieve in framing and stuff like that. So we got our coast along the edge there. We can see off into the distance. That's the third hole right off there, where those two big palms are sticking up. So that's our 3 opening holes right along this big bay. We've stuck in some high rises there and some bamboo, and our clubhouse just built up, elevated slightly on that rock work. Just some nice plant work and stuff around it. But back on the frame, you've got the high rise there, just sort of framing it to the right. Yeah, it's just mainly getting the beach right on that sort of one. We've got a wind in our face, so you can only really make this sort of point over here with the west wind. You can get into that second part of the course. You can try and funnel it down, but I don't think you're going to in this wind, so I'm just going to sit back and take that one. Then we're going to drop down, hopefully just short of this bunker, and give ourselves a shot into the hole just over this bunker and down by that little ridge. Like I say, it was quite basic with the strategy. We're not designing the course, we're just giving ideas. So as you can see again, it's a nice natural rugged look to it. So like I say, you can have fun with it. You don't have to be really well manicured. If you want to go for that look, it's a lot easier than trying to do a rugged sort of one. And we'll just chip that back up there and take a look around the green. So regardless of the weather, we've set the sun pretty low. I think the height of it's about 21, but we're gone midday, so we can bring some lightness back with the midday. We've got minimal clouds, probably around the 20s, and the fog we've set at about 20 in height and about 70 in intensity of the fog, or density. So that gives you that nice misty look off the coast. You're going to get some holes where you're hitting into the sun and you get that misty look. That just breaks that up and gives it a nice vibe. Looking back along the course, just sticking in some of those high rises in the distance there gives you a bit of foreground to these buildings, because it can look quite flattish and doesn't give you an element of depth. But when you stick a couple of trees behind this high rise or this low sort of apartment block I'm looking in, and you've got those trees behind, and then even further back you've got the taller buildings, that gives you a real sense of depth. So that's nice in that respect. Close to these houses that are near the actual green is where I've gone really densely with the planting and just giving it a nice vibe there. Nice little holiday apartments. Bit of rock work just off the back there, running down to that area and then going on to our next tee, which is just behind here. So I like this sort of view for the putt. If I just knock it here, and you're looking back into those apartment blocks and stuff there, I think that looks quite cool. Again, looking back the other way for our putt. Got a nice blue, getting that really blue sort of coastal look. Okay, so that's that idea for that first hole. Then we're going for the par 5, which is, again, we're on the cliffs and the rocky part of the course here, so we're going to give it a little bit more movement and undulation and working what we're doing. You got a little channel to hit down. It's wind dependent, really. I mean, we're on a real facing strong wind here, so we're going to be looking at this area. You can run into that bunker, so you do have to try and take on this water's edge a little bit, but we're not looking too much at the strategy. So trying to frame the tee shot there was just a case of getting that big sort of sycamore on the right there with all the branches filling up most of the space on the right. Tiny bit of bamboo there just to get that corner filled in, and that little palm tree there on the right just to frame that little side. Some low red bushes. The left side, really, the framing is the actual off in the distance there, but you got the par 3 and those high palms again. So you can see the whole hole. Oh, why do I always have trouble saying that? You can see the entirety of the hole. That'd be a better way of saying it, wouldn't it? And then you got this little fern just down on the left here, just to give you a little bit of balance to that side of it, so it's not just looking out into multiple green. You got a little bit of bamboo and a little bit of fern there with the grass that runs off and into the fairway. Let's hit the drive anyway, see where we stand. Hopefully I won't run into the bunker. Hopefully the wind will hold me short. That's fine. So if you get up on a little bit higher on that plateau, you can never quite see the green, but if you're up on this sort of plateau in front of me, you can see the flag. So this is the worst case scenario in this wind. I've chosen the meanest wind to play it, really. Let's play this hole with a west wind, and we can attack it a bit more then. Hole 2 west. Let's go. Yeah, we should be able to funnel straight through there now. Tiger's got a slight fade. Should be sitting up a bit higher now, and hopefully we can see. Now, I built that massive set of double bunkers there I went a bit crazy on that one. But we're high up on the highest point of the cliff bit there, so I had to accentuate that. Behind we've gone, to me that looks more like a traditional sort of look behind the hole there, with a tropical theme where you got the sort of low cut grass and it's a bit more manicured around that fence line leading off into that little house overlooking the beach there. So let's just play this shot. Should fade round hopefully and give us a decent shot. Little bank to kick it off, which you can run it down, which if you're struggling for distance you can try and hit that bank. Just creating that nice misty look gives it a nice vibe. Have a span, pan round, that's the word I'm looking for. So just setting some little houses just in behind and stuff gives you that sense of depth again, otherwise it all can tend to look pretty flattish. It's just bringing things to the foreground and having things in the distance that obviously basic sort of dimensional stuff or 3D stuff, but it makes all the difference in the long run. Looking back along the coast, you can see those high rises that I put in there now and off into the distance. You certainly get that you're on a tropical island sort of vibe without it being a fantasy tropical island. We've gone for this sort of realism look to like a golf resort basically. That was good. Smashed that up there. I want to put one over this side because the best part does look back along the coast there. So that's a cool looking part of the course when you're looking back that way. having all these apartments in really gives it something interesting to look at. If we took them all out, like I said, what I would be using mainly is the bamboo and the tropical trees sunk in as sort of fillers, so you can fill in all those areas of blank spots, and then just leaving everything else generic. Adding rock work in and things like that makes all the difference. If I took out those silvery rocks, or those grey coloured rocks, you'd see the meter drop massively off. Where I just copied and pasted them, that's why it's so high on the meter. And then coming down to our last hole that we designed just for this little mini project of offering some ideas. We've gone for the beachfront sort of look with a nice little apartment blocks again, some cars and stuff, just to give it a little vibe. But it's mainly looking out into that sun with that island backdrop behind, trying to get some interesting shapes with the palms, because they're going to be highlighted and silhouetted against that backdrop. Using a little bit of bamboo just to frame the left hand side there, and obviously we got the tall palms on the right, which are just framing that side with the actual beachfront. Let's hit this shot. I like the idea of using the natural bunkers. The reason why I did it was because I wanted to have holes where the beach was going to be sitting right on the edge of the green, and I wanted to run bunkers into that off the beach. Back along the coast, I wouldn't be convinced about having this palm. I like it from the tee, but I don't like it from the green. But there you go. It's all horses for courses. It's a nice view looking back across that bay. But hopefully I don't put it in. No, not that good. Again, let's have a look back the other way on our gravel. Let's just pan round. That's that bit I was saying about where it needs more grey rock in that section there. That's fine. We've just mixed it in with the brown. And then our next tee would be an issue, because I'd have to run some more bridge work running off to that point where those two palms are, and we'd have a hole going that way. But like I said, I'm only designing these 3 holes just for ideas, so there's no layout for the course. And that's our pan around, looking that way, and then we're going to be off into the bright sun looking that way. I like this backdrop. You got that little bit of backdrop in the distance there where you can see another bit of coastline. It's just a little cool tropical theme backdrop, this one, I think. And that is pretty much it really for ideas of how I've done the vegetation and stuff. I hope that helps, Wiserisky. It's like I said, it's not a traditional tropical sort of style actual course itself, but it's more the ideas of the vegetation and stuff that I'm trying to give you, what you can do around the backs and sides of your holes and all these little areas here, and just putting little interesting things in. The bamboo and the tropical theme are the real key to it, and the rock work blended in with the grasses and stuff works really nicely for the tropical theme. And having the generic trees, the autogen trees, works brilliant on this theme. I really like them. So I hope that's been of some help. Like I say, we've gone for like a golf holiday resort theme on this one. This is sadly going to get deleted now because I won't be finishing this course. 1, for time, and 2, because I haven't really got the feel for it, to be honest, and I just haven't got the time. So we're on 57%. If I wanted to try and continue this design, we'd be in all sorts of trouble. I'd have to really be cunning with my layout, coming back all through the other sides of these apartments and things to utilise all that. But I hope that's been of some help. Anybody else want me to do specific videos on specific things, ideas, or help with ideas, or anything you can think of that you're not sure about, we can always just do 10-minute, 15-minute, whatever long it takes videos of just doing tiny little things. I think the next one I'm going to do is water and sort of just little lakes and things like that. Different ways of finishing the edges, so we can go for the lush look, the terrain painted look, the vegetation look, the retaining wall look, rock work look. There is another look that you can do with pot bunkers, which is really cool. So we'll just do sort of 5 or 6 ways of doing water edges. See people who like, I do get the occasional comments of they have trouble with the edges, so we can work on a video on that. So that'll be my next video. Hopefully it'll be quite soon. I'm just a busy boy at the moment, and I'm absolutely shattered. I've tried to do this video about 3 times, and I was so tired when I was doing it. I was just yawning, and so we've got it done today, and we've got something out there for you. Hope it's been some help. Hope it's given you some ideas for tropical sort of theme look, and ideas that you can run with and improve on. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and take it easy, everybody. Cheers.